Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Baseball Whisperer podcast. I am your host, Coach Roger Michelle, here with my co-host, the mobile coach, Coach Tommy Benedetto. How you doing today?
What's up, Raj? How you doing, pal?
I'm doing all right, my man. Today's one of those days where I think we've already talked about this, but it's just one of those days where I'm actually feeling very blessed because it was chilly, even though it said 55 and kind of tricked me thinking it was going to be warm. But it's one of those days as a baseball coach or a baseball coordinator or organization when you have outside practices in the Northeast and you're fearful that you're going to get banged because of weather. But the weather was able to hold off just long enough for us to get all our programming in. So very thankful and very happy today.
Hey, good for you, man. You're better than me. I had a tough break. I got to my field today. It was windy. It was whipping. Uh, Rain started coming down. Unfortunately, we had to cancel, moving some stuff around. But this is what we signed up for, baby. This is why we get paid the big bucks.
Yeah, 100%.
Moving stuff around, getting everyone in, and doing what we have to do. High school baseball game started this week in Long Island, which is awesome, and yeah, all good stuff. Baseball season's here, but it doesn't feel like it.
No,
That's for
no,
sure.
Northeast baseball, for those that don't know and those that do know are compassionate to it. It's not the most fun. I mean, I think we've played games. When I was coaching at Queensborough, did we play in the snow? Were you on the team that we had, or coaching the team that had to shovel the snow off the field just to get a game in or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I remember a game. It was actually my freshman year. At we just came back from Florida. We played at Gloucester
Okay.
Community College
Yeah.
in Jersey,
Yeah.
and there was
Yeah.
snow in the
Yes. Yes.
outfield. It
Yes.
was
Yes. Yes.
freezing,
Yes.
and there was a stud on the mound throwing like 92. So yeah, it was tough. But yeah, I went even further upstate after that. I went to Oswego. It was cold up there. But us Laker boys knew how to handle that.
Yeah,
So
you're a champ. I mean, anybody that would hear me talk about making decisions about things being too cold would probably laugh at it. I mean, when I coached you and all the other guys, I had them out there, and I think the coldest we ever did was 7-degree weather. But again, you have to remember a college baseball player in the Northeast is playing in March. You're going to play in a day where it's not going to be 7, but if you experience 7, then 35 ain't so bad. I mean, it still stings, but
absolutely, absolutely. I'm a firm believer in that, making things more difficult at practice, so that when games come around, it's simpler. And I think that's a big thing, like you said. Adapting to the colder weather in the Northeast is tough to do, but unfortunately, it's a part of the game, and we have to be our best versions of ourselves in all weather.
and
So
listen,
we got to do what we got to do.
I agree. And in the same breath, the only reason why I even cancel things now, if it does get too cold, is because these kids aren't going to, they're playing in April. It's going to be windy and chilly, but it's never going to be 30s. I mean, that's like a high
Nah.
school ball player, college baseball player thing that you have to deal with. And so that's
Yeah.
something that we try and stray away from these days. But that's about that. So obviously, we've talked about it a few times today, and I have to bring it up because it bothers me so much. This whole Will Smith slapping Chris Rock thing. I mean, again, it bothered me so
Here we
much.
go.
It bothered me so much
Come
as a
on.
coach and a father that I felt compelled to write him a message on IG. I actually DM'd him.
Listen,
Now
I'm
he's
gonna
probably
cut you
never
off.
going
I'm
to see
gonna cut you off. I gotta
it.
cut you off. I gotta cut you off. Before I even let you go on, this is all I'm gonna say about that. I'll let you go on your thing. Listen, I don't think it's at this stage in life. I don't think it's fair for. I think it's safe to say it's there. No circumstance calls for another man to put his hands on another man, especially in public situation. Kind of just walked up to him. Will Smith kind of walked right up to him, slapped him in the face. I mean, unbelievable. I don't know how you could expect that in that circumstance if you're Chris Rock. I think Will Smith was someone who had a tremendous reputation. Unfortunately, he ruined it in about 15 seconds, and that's unfortunately sometimes all it takes. For Will Smith's sake, I hope it works out. I hope he finds a way to apologize to Chris Rock, and I hope Chris Rock finds a way to apologize to Will Smith, and everyone can move on with it. So, Raj, go ahead, take
Yeah,
whatever you got to
so
do. I'm done with
yeah,
it.
so I think to some degree they have apologized, but the reason why it bothered me is as a public figure, which to some degree I have that with some of the following that I have on TikTok. Again, not to Will Smith's degree, but again, we have to teach our children. As a father, as a coach, like there's going to come up circumstances where people are going to say words that are very hurtful to you, and you just can't walk over and smack somebody. You can't turn around and hit somebody with a bat because they said something that you don't like. You can't turn around and fire a baseball at someone because you don't like what they said. Like that bothered me so much, and that's why I felt compelled to DM this man because it was just as someone I looked up to growing up.
You're
But
sick.
it was terrible because we can't teach these messages and these lessons. I just just whatever. I did what I did. But the reason why I bring it up is because, like, again, what if we have this baseball player now that sees this, that likes him, and turns around and thinks, like, you know what, next time that's how I'm going to react. We can't have that. Our job as coaches, as role models, as whatever he is, celebrities, athletes, is really to some degree is you taking on the responsibility to be somewhat of a role model. Now, again, I get it. Not everybody gets into sports because they want to be a role model. It's not what I'm saying, but you have to understand it comes with the territory. It comes with it, and we have to send right now. And again, just last thing, I'm not saying defending what he said. It was, it was hurtful now knowing the whole story, but in the same breath, you don't hit another person over words that are being spewed unless, again, it's to defend yourself. I would understand that, but to outwardly show aggression in that manner is unacceptable, and it has no place in where on TV, has no place in sports. And that's the reason why I bring it up, because I want to make sure that we moving forward understand that sportsmanship is a major part. If you don't have another team to play against, then you're not playing a game. Then there's no point of being there.
I agree.
So
I agree. And I think Raj, you hit the nail on the head. Sportsmanship, right? Whether your team is up 20 runs, down 20 runs, wins by two, loses by two. I think every player needs to know how to lose equally as much as they need to know how to win. Um, I think there
and
it's
accept criticism.
a
I mean, you have to be able to accept
it's not
criticism.
that's this game. This game is all about failing. This game is all about dealing with adversity. This game teaches you life lesson after life lesson, and it's how we come about it. It's how we deal with it. And if you can't deal with losing, then you'll never be able to be a successful winner. You'll be the
100%.
guy who rubs it in the other team's face. You'll be the guy that doesn't show sportsmanship. So as coaches, that's our job to promote what we do each and every day at practice, in the games, when we're talking to our kids. We need to make sure that we are always, always, always respecting the other team first and the game
And
itself.
again, and if someone, and like in that situation, outwardly says something that you feel hurt about, it doesn't give you the
Right.
right to turn around and show aggression towards another person.
No.
And
Beat them on the
because I
scoreboard.
mean, think about it. As you know, you've played baseball, and I think we could both say there's many things that we probably can't say, but to say the least, I've had people threaten to hit me with a baseball in the head. I've had people threaten to slide and break my ankles. I've had people threaten me and do many other things and say many other hurtful things. But at the end of the day, the way I look at it is like when you're inside those lines, like when you're getting talked to, like in a situation like as a comic, when you're getting talked to in a situation in a baseball field, you have to kind of remove yourself in that situation, because like you can't like take things personally. Like if you take things personally,
Right.
your life is going to be very hard. If you take things personally in baseball, like why do you think the other team's saying this thing again? Now we'll get away from the whole Chris Rock Will Smith thing. Like we'll leave that alone. I just don't agree with it. I just want to make sure we all understand that we don't hit when we do these things. But like if you look
No.
at this whole situation on the whole, how are we supposed to respond to these things? And I'm a firm believer of talking with your bat, talking with your game, maybe sliding a little harder, not later, sliding a little harder, really just going through a base hard,
Mhm.
or maybe just making sure that you're just showing a little bit more effort on the mound. Which again, there shouldn't ever be a question of effort, but you just got that little extra zip because now you got a file it under your butt, and you're using that as ammunition. Like when I used to hear other people talk crap, I used to be like, oh yeah, I'm like, all right, here we go. I'm like, now let me shut you guys down. Not like, oh, you said something about my sister and I want to go beat you up now. Like that's not the way that we handle situations.
Yeah, I could not agree more. What I would say about that whole situation is how you react to that type of behavior is you beat teams up on the
Yeah.
scoreboard. That's the eye of the tiger, right? I learned that the hard way. I was a hockey player. I've been escorted out of many of hockey arenas by my father, and that's a fact. I was someone who had a hot head growing up, so I learned the hard way. Got suspended for a lot of hockey games, and that was my own stupidity. And I learned, and it made me a better player in that sport, but it also made me a better player in baseball. I was someone who wasn't going to back down, but I also like to kind of be the one to do something when no one else wanted to do something. I wanted to
Yeah.
be the one to turn the game around.
Yeah.
And that was something that I tried to instill in everyone. Be the guy to turn the game around. Be the one to get the loud hit. Wake everyone up in this dugout, because when you do that, you wake up
Well,
everybody.
see,
And that
but
is a different type of effect.
what a
That's a
great,
different
let's
effect.
take that for a second, because what a great thought,
Yeah.
right? Like get a loud hit. That doesn't mean get loud with your voice and start jawing back at the other team and getting everybody aggressive and looking for a fight, because again, that's coming back. Like just get the loud hit. Like what are they going to say? Like if you pick up, if you got guys on second and third and you're down by 1 run and you hit that laser beam shot over the second baseman's head into the gap, 2 runs, a little shot, and that's the moment.
Loud,
That's
loud.
yeah. So that's the stuff that
One
we're
loud
looking for.
hit.
But again, that
That's
and
it.
a loud hit is so much more impactful than a loud voice. And we say a loud hit, not a loud slap, but
No,
a
double, a
loud
loud
double, yeah, a loud
triple,
triple,
loud
yeah,
homer.
well, loud homer. That's that next level, man. You
Oh,
get
forget
that.
about
That's
it.
called being
Forget about
clutch.
it. Forget about it. Wake everybody up. Get the parents
That's right.
going too.
That's right.
Everyone in the house going for
So,
sure.
so all in
That's what you
all,
do.
I just really think that it's important that we just all take a second to realize that we are going to be faced with these situations in life and in baseball, and our choice of how we respond to them are very indicative of who we are as people. And I think you touched on it before that he lost sight of himself and kind of tarnished a great career in that one moment. And I talked about it
Right.
with you before, and there's moments in my career where I've had scouts looking at me, and I decided that a guy that almost hit a home run. I hit my first collegiate home run, almost hits another one off me. He comes around, he's like, "You're so effing lucky." He's like, "I almost hit a second home run," and then I decided to throw a ball at the next kid's back that he ducked out of the way of, and then proceeded to throw three fastballs on the outside corner to have him strike one, strike two, chop to me, get him out and flex to the bench, and I lose the scouts. Now again, I didn't aggressively hit anybody, but I aggressively went after somebody to hit them between their numbers. Again, that was a different game, so don't judge me in today's game, all right? But it was
Yeah, it's
it was a
different.
stupid emotional decision that impacted my ability to go further in my baseball career at the time. I'm not saying it was a
Listen.
bad thing, but just that's kind of the idea.
Yeah, listen, I think that, like we said earlier on, I think there's ways to handle things and there's times and places to do things. And it starts with representing yourself, your team, your coach, your parents. It starts with trying to be that ultimate representative of everything that you are as a player and as a person. When you look at a player who acts a certain type of way, you start to see things from in a different light. And when you see something in a negative light, it's sometimes really hard to shake that negative light. And no matter how positive that person could be, it's you make a first impression one time, and a lot of players don't realize that. And when you're really looking to dive deeper into things on it, it starts and ends with who a player is and who a player is going to be. You
Perfect.
know.
So that leads us into the next thing I'd like to get into talk to you about today. I'm basically going to go after the 10 and up ball player. The reason why I say 10 and up is because when you turn 10, you're basically 2 years away from middle school ball. That's high school ball. High school baseball is real baseball. I mean, that's where you
Right.
have to kind of
Right.
shine if you really are a player. In
Absolutely.
the travel world, there's a lot of good ball players because they're coming from all over the place. In the high school world, you got to shine. And so
Absolutely.
that 10 and up ball player, who in your eyes as a coach that's coached many players, what are some of the expectations that you have for a player?
Wow, that's a loaded question, Raj. I love it, and I love every second of it. So I'm going to tell you right now. This is really anything you do. It could be baseball, it could be hockey, it could be football, it could be basketball. Whatever it is that you enjoy doing, it starts with commitment and preparation. Any baseball player who I've come across that's had any success from the age of 10 all the way through the ranks is someone who is committed to working 12 months out of the year on his game, uh, is someone who is prepared to play their baseball season each and every season. They know what their strengths are. They know what they need to work on to better themselves as a player. They're always willing to go the extra step to get to that next level. I think as you get older, you start to see the guys really start to work even harder. At the ages of, I would say, 10 to 12, Rod, you got the guys who play your travel baseball. You don't get the school ball player yet. But once school ball starts to come into play, you get about a 20-game season in high school. Then you're getting another 40 to 60 games in the summer and the fall, which
Mm-hmm.
is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to continue working. That's why it's so important at that level to be working out 12 months out of the year. You need to be strength training 12 months out of the year. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care what position you play. You need to stay in the gym. You can control what you can control. You can control how strong you are. Keep working hard in the gym, players. Please. That's something I
Yeah.
preach to everybody.
So I'll touch a few things on that. So one,
Yeah.
even because I said even like a 10 and up player. So once you hit high school, yeah, you have to start hitting the weights to some degree. I mean, but you better be strong enough to carry your own body weight before you even start looking at weights. Weights aren't the answer to all, but it is important to a quality ball player. Aside from that, I mean, regardless if you're 38, 35, or 10 years old or 15 years old playing baseball, I could agree that a competitive ball player such as myself and yourself, even at 10 years old are going out there and to this day going out there and giving it our all. And the reason why I bring that up is because if your 10-year-old body is giving it its all and your 38-year-old body and your 30-year-old body is giving it its all, the only difference may be a little bit of recovery time. That's only a maybe. But at the end of the day, you're still deteriorating your body, breaking your body down, throwing, which is not a really natural motion. Your body can naturally do it, but it's not a superior natural motion. And
Right.
you have to now repair from these things. So even if you're 10 years old, having a steady regimen of push-ups and sit-ups and squats and, maybe getting resistance bands and doing some stuff like that, like that's again, because if you're 10 years old, like this is your preparation for high school baseball. We don't prepare for something
Right.
when it starts. I've tried it. I'm letting you know it doesn't work. I'm like, oh yeah, when season starts, I'll get ready. That never works. It never works. So I'm just like, you could try it,
Never.
but you'll see it really doesn't work.
Listen, I always say it's a lot easier to slow down than it is to speed up, and you could always work hard and slow down. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing taking some time away to heal, some time to recover. I think that's great. I think athletes should do that.
Well, tell me, I
But
really talk this because I'm a firm believer because, with when you start to talk about hard work, I agree with that. But I feel like it really doesn't take more than maybe 10 or 15 minutes on a day that you're not training. So like to take 10 minutes to maybe take some swings off a tee, to take 10 minutes to duct tape a tube sock to your hand and throw inside when it's cold. Being creative and finding ways to just find those moments. So I don't think it's like, oh, I got to train 12 months out of the year. It's like, no, it's like 10 months, 10 minutes a day. Then you have your practice. You have your 1 hour session with your coach one time a week. You got the clinic you're going to. Then that kind of makes up for all this stuff. But it's what are you doing when the coach's eyes aren't on you, I think is what you mean. Like, what is your training
right,
when the coach isn't
absolutely.
watching?
Right, and I think that's the part of this that some players have trouble understanding is when you go to your practice, you get your practice and you get your work in. You're in a team environment that's phenomenal. When you go with your coach or in group training, you're with hopefully 1 to 4 players, and that's great. That's pretty hands on right there. But then when it's you working with just yourself, that's a special
Yeah,
connection that
yeah,
you're making with
yeah,
yourself as a player. And I think that really does a lot for you in here, equally as much as it does in your own
yeah,
skills. You, as a player, you want to visualize things before they happen, right? You want to think positive. You want to see yourself getting up at the game on and getting a big hit. You want to see yourself getting up in different situations, coming through and being the guy your teammates are celebrating around. That's who you want
yeah,
to
yeah,
be.
yeah.
And when you're working by yourself, when no one's around, you are that guy. And that's something that no one can take away from you, and you bring that confidence with you into the batter's box. So I think it's
I agree.
important.
So one of the ways that I recommend to athletes 10 and up to get prepared, and again, this goes to a college athlete, goes to a high school athlete, maybe even a professional baseball player. I'm sure there are some that are this organized with
Absolutely.
things. So basically, I recommend taking out an index card, and on that index card, going through every single item that you need for practice on one side and every single item you need for a game on the other side. So let's just think for fun. Let's make a little list. You have a piece of paper there. So let's write a game
Yeah,
list and let's
absolutely.
write a
Absolutely.
practice list. So a lot of things are going to be the same. So I might just kind of say it, but we'll start off with we're going to need our cup. Okay, so we have our cup on both. It goes on both sides of the paper. Um, the only difference really for game would be uniform. So I guess we can kind of make this kind of list uniform. But again, other people have different rituals. I'm not here to tell you what you're supposed to use for certain days. Some people like to have a practice glove. You're not going to use a practice glove maybe during game day or whatever the cases
Right.
are. So either way, let's just go over a list of things that we need in our baseball bag. So we need our cup, we need our glove. And then again, if we have specialty gloves, meaning catcher's glove, first baseman's glove, we need to make sure we have
Right.
those because you don't want to show up to the field and say, hey, Johnny, can you play first base? Coach, my mom forgot to put my glove in my bag. Like you didn't manage that. Again, I encourage
Yeah,
athletes.
let's get that out of the way right now. That is not the player's job. First of all, that is not the parent job. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
That is the player's job.
100%.
100%. Parents, please do not carry your kids'
Yeah,
stuff. That's their job.
yeah, yeah. Don't carry
Yeah.
either. Yes, yes,
Please,
yes.
please. We have to get this out right now.
Yeah,
We're talking about what it takes to be a player. Talks about it. We're talking preparation here.
yeah.
Your game stuff, your cup, your
That's
hat,
your
your uniform.
responsibility as a ball
That's
player.
hand in
10
hand.
and
That's
up.
your responsibility. Your equipment, that's part of it. That's everything.
Yep.
Case closed. Nothing else. Everything else should come with you no matter what to
So I
practice.
mean, so again, but I want to go over it because I think it gets a little deeper. So cup, gloves, any gloves you want, batting gloves if you like them, your bats, your helmets, any kind of catcher's gear, any other specialty gear you need, wristbands, things of that nature. Because again, you don't want to show up to the field with your wristbands that you've been six for your last six, and then oh my god, I need my wristbands. Now again, you shouldn't be using that as a ritual to mean that you're getting hits because it's not your wristbands. But in that game day moment, nobody wants to hear that. We don't want them missing. So these are things that
Right.
we have to kind of all put on our list. And then before we go out the night before the game or the night before the practice, we go into our bag, we look at our index card, we make sure everything is there. So we have our cup, we have our gloves, we have our belts. Because again, I'm a big believer that two practice and two games, you show up in uniform. That's the way I like it. You have a practice uniform, you have a game uniform. I don't need to see, like when we are at Queensboro, oh, well, this
Mhm.
guy's wearing, excuse me, a Yankees hoodie. This guy's wearing a Queensboro hoodie. This guy's, excuse me, wearing a Notre Dame hoodie. Like I don't need to see that. Like that's not the way that a team trains. Like we're uniform. We're supposed to look the same because at the end of the
Yeah,
day,
you got to look the
baseball
part.
is a very disciplined sport. It is very
Right.
strategic in a very interesting way that you don't know what's going to happen. It's not like we could set up a play in
Right.
basketball and everything works out perfect. Sometimes there's no ways, but again, there's no plays in baseball. Like the
Right.
most like think about it. How many times you've been in a game? It's like wow, I've never seen that before. That's crazy.
It happens all the time. It happens all the time. That's what makes baseball special. And I think when it comes down to it, we're talking preparation and we're talking about being prepared. And that's what this game is all about. And when you really look at it, the guys who are the most prepared, the guys who do these little things, are the guys who are the first ones at the field. The guys who are the ones who are already dressed, ready to rock
So
before the
in
game even
your
begins.
eyes, as
Anyone else gets there.
in your eyes, what is the purpose? Because we're talking about preparation. What is the purpose
Yeah.
of an active warm up? Because I think a lot of young athletes, especially 10 to 12, but even in high school and in college, I don't think they understand why we
Yeah.
as coaches put them through an active warm up.
Yeah, so active warm ups are absolutely exactly what they sound like. They're to warm you up as in an active way. I think they're great. I think the game's evolved so much, right? You got these guys who the pitchers especially who do the drive line, right? You got guys who do drive line. It's a completely different recovery than really any other pitcher who throws bullpens. So those guys do whatever they're doing. Then you got you guys who do whatever they like to do, whatever they've been taught, and that's a good thing because you get to learn from other people. And I think that's important that we do that, right? So any active warm up that you want to do, you can
Well,
create
I guess
basically off of.
my point to that then is more because you're right. Because
All
like
right, so then
no
you
hear me out. Because the point of what I'm saying is like where I look at it as an active warm up. So whatever the active warm up is, whether I'm doing my drive line stuff, whether I'm doing my high knees, butt kick, side shuffles with my team, I'm looking at it as a time for me to prepare myself mentally. So not only do I have to be prepared to show up to the field based off of my
right,
setting up my mental, taking mental reps maybe while my mom or dad is driving me to the field,
right,
doing my little bit of tee work off the tee. Like I mean, just a real quick side story. Like I had a 10-year-old that 2 years ago, before COVID, was batting last in the friggin' lineup, was last before this whole thing. Everything shuts down. This kid from 8 to 10 years old decided on his own that he was going to watch YouTube videos and train himself. He went from last to
love it,
first in the lineup, from last
love
to
it,
first. That's prepreparation. The kid
love
was
it.
8 to 10 years old. Dude,
Preparation, that's
I have chills
everything.
right now to think that there's kids
Amazing.
out there doing that. Because and let me tell you something. This kid, I love him. He's a good kid. How to say it? Like he's one of the kids. Like he's hard.
Yep.
Like he's like a Chris Miller. We
Right.
love Chris Miller. Do you remember? You know Chris Miller? No, you don't know.
I
You know,
remember
yeah.
Chris. Yep.
So
I know Chris.
love him. He's a player, and I hope he appreciates his shout out. That just he required extra coaching, but was an amazing player and an amazing person. And this kid was the same.
Yeah,
So
listen.
my point, just real quick, was that he took the time to prepare himself leading up to the season. Then we prepare ourselves with everything that's in our bag. Now we have to prepare ourselves for a game. So if in an active warm up we're sitting there joking around, talking to our friend, like, did you take your warm up seriously? Like that's the part where I'm sitting there trying to get myself ready to play baseball and thinking about how I'm going to do that day.
Oh yeah, you're doing everything. I mean, that's where you do. That's where the again preparation comes into play. You are the breaking down everything you need to do to get ready to play. You are stretching. You are throwing. You are sprints. You're doing everything. Working on getting jumps, long tossing. I think active warm up is literally everything you do. Your whole pregame warm up should be an active warm up. I think from the second you get to the ballpark before a game to the before a practice to the second you leave it, you need to be engaged in everything you do. If you're not engaged in everything you do, then you're not giving 100%.
Yeah,
That's what you think.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with
So
that.
for me, it's not just warm up; it's active practice. You go from start to finish, but in the beginning of it, you ease into it. But then from 0 to 60, right away, you're flying, and that's what you got to be
And
focusing
I
on.
know so I think you touched on something else, which is another area we could tackle real quick is active practice. It's such a deep way to think about it because I teach again to 10-year-olds and up with a lot with this stuff that the way the human body works is it basically downloads information and it stores it for
Right,
you to access easily. So for example, if we had to actually consistently train our body how to do something and it couldn't remember it eventually, then what would happen is we'd
right.
have to relearn how to walk every day. And that would be not a fun task because we eventually
Like 51st dates.
like like think about it.
You know?
You couldn't always walk. I couldn't always walk. Nobody always walked. They had to learn how to walk. So the
Of
idea is we're
course.
learning how to swing. But now my point to this is every time you take a swing, you're swing. If you're not swinging, like say you're instructing a kid, right? And you have a kid with a bad arm bar,
Right.
and you're like, "Hey, kid,
Sure.
listen, we got to keep that front arm from straightening out because it's arm barring you out. It's bringing you around the baseball, and you're not going to
Right.
really make solid contact that way, especially as you get older. And as guys start throwing harder, you're just going to be late and get jammed or not hit the ball. So the idea is
Right.
like we have to keep that. So now we have to learn that this is not an easy motion because if we teach a kid to do this, right, and the ball's not moving at him,
Yeah.
the second he pitches, the habit takes over, right? Because humans are
Right back
habit
into
formed.
it.
So now the habit
Yep.
comes back out the way that his brain thinks he's supposed to do it. And the reason why that happens is because the brain's
Yeah.
like, we one time saw success hitting a ball like that, and we never saw success hitting a ball like this, so we don't want to try
Yeah.
it. And that's kind of like the battle that we're getting into. But that's where it comes down to is like how consistent you could be with your training at practice. Are you moving the way Coach Tommy
Right.
asked you?
Right.
So, and a lot of kids don't do that. They just go through the motions.
Yep, and that's the thing, man. Like you said, it's consistency, right?
Yeah,
Consistency
100%.
of everything you do. Breaking bad habits. Like I remember someone once told me it takes 30 days to break a bad
That's
habit.
fair.
Think about it. Think about that. What that is in baseball terms. Like 30 days of working your tail off to make sure you get rid of
And wait,
whatever
but
issue you're doing
just real quick,
constantly.
30 days without going back to your old habit. So it's not even, so
Right, 30 days of
yeah.
consistently doing the same thing correct over and over. It's really hard to do. But as ball players, that's what you need to do in order to separate yourself from being great and good. And I think a lot of people think when there comes with you could go take 300, 400, 500 swings. That's great. You're going to get tired and you're going
Yep,
to take bad
yep,
swings when that
yep,
happens.
yep.
So it's more efficient to go out there and take 50 to 75 great swings, call it a day, and then maybe come back later
I
on in the
call it a
day,
purposeful
like
rep.
that.
I go a purposeful rep versus a rep.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you want to take purposeful swings. You want to have a plan. Everything comes back to planning, preparation. You want to get up to the tee and have an idea. And there's nothing wrong with
Perfect.
taking 50, 100 swings. There's
So
nothing
when you
wrong
get
with
up to the tee, let's just touch on that then. What is your
it. Yeah.
approach to hitting off a tee?
I mean, I like to always set the tee up on the outer part of the plate, a little bit in front of the plate. Trying to really engage create a rubber band effect where my hands are going back and my weight is starting to go forward, but in still a good position where it's still in my belly button. And then from there, I'm really trying to drive my hands and my back hip directly to the ball and driving to right center field. I knew if I was going well, I was hitting the ball to right center. So I knew I was staying behind the ball and I was staying close and I wasn't trying to pull everything. So I always geared my tee work to the other way. And I think that really made me a better hitter.
And it's funny.
So what about you?
I'm funny. I'm the exact opposite. So I was an excellent opposite field
Yeah.
hitter. I had trouble with the inside pitch. So a lot of my tee work was done working on the inside pitch, staying closed, turning on the inside pitch.
Right.
I'm also a big believer. Like if you watch me work off a tee, I'm almost sometimes annoying to work with because I will actually sit there and visualize a pitcher, and I'll sit there and take a time and like in slow motion, not in real time, but almost like sit there and look, imagine a ball down to my point of contact, turn on my ball. I try and make it inside my head as real as possible because I'm a firm believer that whether I visualize it or I experience it, it's just a memory at the end of the day. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to create the best memories of me succeeding over and over again.
Oh yeah. Forget about it, man. I think I was the same way. I think part of my problem, which we'll get into somewhere down the road, was my lack of preparation as a student.
Mm.
So I used to daydream all day about getting big loud hits and
So, so let me
driving,
so
being
let
the
me tell you
guy.
something. That's something I wanted to actually bring up to you before is
Yeah.
because you touched on planning, and I think that planning and preparation go hand in hand in the essence that you don't have to
Right.
plan like right out like this is what I'm going to do for the next 6 months, right? Because you hear all this stuff like goal setting for the next 6 months and doing this, and that becomes
Right.
very stressful. I mean, not many people really want to think 6 months into the future when they're dealing with an issue that's happening right now. And I think that the
Right.
preparation comes from like you were saying, like the most planning and preparation you could do is actually sitting there visualizing. I don't know if even you know it. One of the reasons you were so successful is because you were a daydreamer. Your daydreaming was actually you planning
Yeah.
for future success. You may not have been logging it, but you were doing it. And I think that's important
Yeah. I
to know.
mean, I wish I wasn't doing it as much sometimes,
Look
but
where you are now. You're doing great.
no, this is great. Like, listen, things happen for a reason. You always land on your feet, and I think hard work takes you there. So
Yeah, yeah.
always do that.
I
Yeah.
agree wholeheartedly. So overall, I think we touched on a lot of things today. We had some other areas we wanted to get into, but we're just going to run out of time for this evening. I think all in all, players need to look at ways to get more prepared. So my closing thing is,
Definitely.
starting with index cards. From index cards, writing out not a just like a daily plan. Like, hey, you know what? Every day I'm going to try it for the next 10 days. I'm going to try and get in 50 swings off the tee or something, and kind of build off of just doing something small. It's one small step. You have to think about this. If you took one small step up a giant staircase, it may take you a long time to get to the top. But if you're taking one small step daily, eventually you're going to get there. And I think we have to lose sight of like, oh, I'm not getting better. Another way I look at it from our older listeners, like that's like going to the gym and being like, I just lifted today. Why aren't I bigger and stronger yet? It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work
Right.
that way.
Right.
It's got to trust the process. You got to keep moving forward. You have to find ways to prepare yourself with that. You have to get yourself to the field. You have to get yourself mentally prepared. You have to focus on the game. You have to leave what's for dinner, what video game you're playing, what book you're reading, what's going on with school, what's going on with the girlfriend. That has to get checked outside of the field before you step into the dugout, and you have to be in full baseball mode. I am a firm believer that baseball is your chance to kind of check real life at the door for a little while and get to a place where everything is fair. And if it's not fair, it doesn't
Yep.
count.
Absolutely, Raj. No, great job, man. And listen, another great week, another great episode with you, man. Proud of us. And listen, thank you for all you do. I also want to say good luck to all my high school players this year. Do what you do, man. You guys have been killing it all year. Good luck to each and every one of you. Good luck to my middle school boys as well. Season starting for you guys this week as well. And keep working hard. Do not stop every single day. Give it something. Do something to better yourself, whether it be mentally, whether it be physically. Put a little effort in somewhere, but also don't forget do well in school, do well around the community, be an all around person, and keep working hard. And we'll see you next week.
All right, wait, where can we find you?
You can find me at the mobile coach _LI. I'm on Instagram. Give me a shot. Got a lot of cool things coming up. Raj, we are looking forward to working with you in the future,
Yeah,
obviously. And yeah, a lot of good things going on.
awesome. So I can be found at baseball_whisper on TikTok and on Instagram. We could also be found at the Baseball Whisper landing page on YouTube. And
Yep.
just some upcoming events that we have. So we have our summer clinics registration, which will be held at HBQVB Padavan Preller Fields, is
Yep.
up for registration. We're actually running really, really exciting this year, a Sandlot Baseball League. So basically what we're going to do is it's going to be a pitching machine league. The first hour that you're going to get there, it's going to be 2 coaches on site at all times. First hour is going to be active warm-up, progressive throwing, skills and drills work. IO and BP will alternate each week. And then after that, it's basically going to be machine pitch. The coaches are there at that point just to kind of keep pace of play, integrity of game, and just basically to slow down a situation. So like if a situation gets out of hand with kids running around throwing, our coaches are actually going to stop like, this is the way the situation we played out, because we don't want to, I guess, allow for, baseball that's not real baseball to happen. So that's kind of what our Sandlot League pitching machine is going to save arms, and it's going to keep the reps moving and the
Yep.
game moving. So that's something really
No,
cool.
it's a great
That's
program.
open.
Really cool program, Raj.
Thanks,
Really
man.
cool program, guys.
And so that's going to be open for registration. And then lastly, we have our Easter break clinic that's going to be open. That's going to also be held at HBQV Padavan Preller Fields. And of course, we offer lessons and much more. We are
Yep.
basically your one-stop shop for baseball training. Not only do we offer it all, if we don't offer it, we know pretty much anybody and everybody that does. And we're happy to share the wealth and kind of offer you whatever you need to accommodate your baseball needs. Just last thing is we also, a lot of that information on pegsbaseball.com. So please join us, and we hope to see you soon.
Yeah, have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Smash some baseballs, all right?
All right. Good luck, everybody. See you soon. Bye.
All right, later, guys.